people look in envy at Rwanda, Malaysia, and Singapore. What it took to get them where they are we prepared to do that? Singapore still has corporal punishment, but all the human rights lawyers are in Ghana, though.
Dr. Zanetor Agyeman-Rawlings, daughter of Ghana's revolutionary president J.J. Rawlings, unleashes in her first ever podcast conversation, only on Talk No Deku Prize.
A trader who damaged some part of the overpass, put away for 2 years in jail. But are we going to be able to do that to a politician who does the equivalent of damaging that, where a road should have been built? They got the money and it wasn't done.
In your own constituency, we had a student taking the life of another student. Some make the argument that because we opened the floodgates for everybody to now access senior high school, that has fanned into flame what we're saying today. What do you make of it?
I'm probably going to get some backlashing for this one. Good governance is not just about going for elections and making sure that the result you got overall was clean. And then what?
We've piloted a number of aircraft, even piloted alone before the unfortunate August incident happened. What came to your mind?
May I be honest with you?
Please do. There's a post you made exactly 950 days ago.
Oh, God.
What informed this?
It's just...
You're one of the people whose names have been dragged in the mud because of your father and the party. You sometimes have to just forgive and let go.
Sometimes the loudest voice is not the most honest voice. And I'm not under any illusion that my father was loved by everyone.
I think this episode will go down memory lane for me, especially. This morning, guess what? I called my mom and I left home quite early, so she didn't know I had a recording today. And I told her that, Mommy, guess who I'm talking to today? Somebody I've admired from a distance, learned quite a lot from her, even before she was in Parliament. I've watched almost every single interview she's ever done. There's a lot of knowledge I've gathered from her. But of course, if she's here, she's got to do the talking. Please show some love for somebody I think we all respect, and willing to learn from. And of course, if you're having such a conversation with smart, intelligent people, then you know for sure that you're going to have a very rewarding conversation. Dr. Zanetor Agyeman-Rawlings.
Yes, you actually pronounced my name properly.
I noticed in other interviews they were getting it wrong, yes. So I had to get it right.
Well done, Elam. You've proven that you're Elam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
I'm super grateful you make the time to be, especially when you don't, do quite. And so I feel very special, and I'm grateful Angela and the team were able to make this happen. Doc, I just want to start off by getting to know. Of course, most part of your childhood has been in the limelight, but what are some of the things you think I need to know about your early context to get to understand the wonderful adults? And I'm using adults not because you're old, but of course, every parent raises their child for them to be meaningful adults, So what do I get to know about your early context to fully appreciate the lady you are today?
By early context, you mean my childhood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I went to a kindergarten that was my grandmother's kindergarten, Mrs. Agyeman. She was extremely strict.
Wow.
And everyone who went to Tiny Tots knew about her ring finger because she would actually knock you on the head if you were naughty. Wow. So I think we probably all have some indentations in our skulls from that. I think in general, I grew up with parents who were pretty strict and grandparents who were stricter.
Wow.
My grandfather on my mother's side, my maternal grandfather, he was such a gentle soul, but those people are very gentle but extremely principled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say I had the honor of having gotten to know him. He passed on before most of my other cousins and siblings were born, so I still have some memories of that.
Oh.
I'm only mentioning it because you wanted to know something you don't know. And I think at the time he would sometimes go to what was then the Continental Hotel. I'll let you do your research and find out what it's called today. And I remember I would hold his hand and he taught me how to snap fingers.
Okay.
You know how we shake hands. And so he would literally take my hand and snap all my fingers. So I learned how to do that very early.
Wow.
I lived with my grandparents for a while That was when my younger sister, when Yasantua was born. And there's a whole story around that. But I spent quite a bit of time with them. And so maybe for a starter, that's a good thing. So I started off growing up in a family where everyone was pretty strict. And discipline was part of your psyche, part of your upbringing. And from a very early age, taught a sense of responsibility. So if you were walking and something was in the wrong place, it was your responsibility to pick it up. You don't walk past something that's in the wrong place. So very early on, it's kind of wired into my psyche. And I guess sometimes people find it hard, people who have gotten to know me much later in life, find it hard to understand what this thing is that this drives me to just have things done the right way. It's just how I was raised.
Wow. I like that. But thankfully, you weren't raised like the regular Ghanaian kid. Your dad was the president of Ghana at a point in time. And not just, one who just a box checker, but one who, of course, goes down memory lane as one of our best ever presidents, for us to have as a country. How was it different? I mean, how was your childhood a lot more different from the regular kid? Because I grew up as a regular kid. I don't have...
What's a regular kid?
A regular kid goes to a regular school.
I went to a regular school.
Okay, maybe a lot more context to it. I'm guessing if your father is a president, you should have some security when you go into school. Or, I mean, regular kids will go to school without any security. You'd have security. And most especially living in a castle.
We didn't
you didn't live in the castle.
No.
Okay. Yeah. But I feel that my childhood may not be the same as yours.
Okay, let's compare notes.
Let's do that. You went to school with security.
We were driven to school with security, but we were left alone at school.
Okay.
So we didn't have security at school.
Did you have extra attention and care because you were the president's daughter? First daughter?
I don't think so, because maybe if I did, I wouldn't have received the lashes I did along the line.
You were whooped in school?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No preferential treatment?
Nope.
Why?
Because that's not the way my parents raised us. So you were treated like everyone else in the class.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Were you one of the best students in class?
It's a bit hard to toot your own horn. I don't know. Well,
I can give it to you. Yeah. I mean, everything proves that.
Well, yeah, I was usually in the top 5, top 8 to 10 thereabouts, mostly.
Did you have exceptional favor in the eyes of teachers or head teachers?
I wouldn't say so, but I would say that there were some teachers who were particularly mean for reasons best known to them, and I think related to maybe my parents or my dad or something.
But how does the child get to pay for the sins of their father?
That's what it's been.
Even when your dad was president?
Even then.
I don't get it.
I know. It's quite unusual. So when I hear people speak about when he was head of state and how, there was no freedom to do this or that, I always wonder through the eyes of what I experienced as a child. I remember at a point my younger 2 siblings had to be changed to a different school because the politics that was happening, they were actually being treated quite unfairly. So it wasn't preferential treatment in a positive sense. I think sometimes when people ask about our childhood, what they see is what they presume to be some level of glamour. But my parents, both very level-headed and grounded, would not even let us have that. I remember there was one time when my dad came to the house and there was a vehicle that was there that was, being used for the house. And as far as he was concerned, the vehicle was too nice. So he had the chief of staff at the time,
Dr. Tony Edu?
No. Ken Obaye, I think it was at the time, or one of back in the day, the chief of staff was not somebody people knew.
Oh, okay.
Except for those who worked within the presidency. And the car was changed to Chenchemaka that day. Yes.
But for what effect?
Well, he didn't see why we should be driving in a fancy car to school. Like, who were we? In short.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think my dad would be quite my dad would be super grateful you're saying this, because he's always told us that you are not, you are from a humble beginning. Why do you want to? Recently, I went out with him and at the restaurant we served juice. So I drank and I didn't finish it too, and I left it. And he was like, who's going to drink it? I'm like, oh, it's just classy, you just leave a bay, big boy. So there's no big boy about this, Why are you acting as though? And so me coming from a very humble background, hearing you on the extreme end saying that you had to be put through regular, wow.
I remember my dad when he would come to the house and so girls are supposed to have more shoes. Well, that's what we are told.
Yeah.
I'm still traumatized by that today, by the way. I don't have that many shoes.
Oh.
Yes, I still have to remind myself to buy shoes. Because he would come to the house and he'd come to our room and he'd open the wardrobe to see how many shoes we had. And then he'd be like, why do you need so many shoes? You don't need so many shoes. You only need one pair of shoes to go to school.
Wow.
And that when he was young, he had a pair of shoes to go to church with and one for school. Why do we need so many shoes? It's just...
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember there was a time when he was coming into the house and I heard the gate and I ran in there and I tried to hide my shoes because I did not think I could go through the lecture again, And it's quite funny because it very early on, I think for me, what it did to my wiring in terms of how I think was shoes are more of a practical tool for me. I'm using shoes as an example or as the symbol for other things where what I would not be overly focused on the material and rather the practicality of be pragmatic, this is for a particular purpose. I remember when I think after JSS, and it was a long holiday and I'd gone to have my hair braided with extensions. And he saw me and he was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So he just had this practical approach to life. And many people assumed that they understood him fully. Actually, I don't think people really knew the full person that he was. People saw a particular side of him and assumed that they understood the person who he was. I know I'm digressing, but
please feel
this
free.
is somebody who had so many dimensions to him that when I had my first daughter, my eldest is 20 now, when I had her and she was about 6, she was learning how to play chess. And my dad played with her. And that was the first time I actually found out that my dad was a chess player. So I learned something about him even at that age, in my, mid-30s or something, when he was playing chess with my daughters, when I found out that he was actually a very good chess player.
Wow.
So there you go. Something you didn't know.
I'm excited. I'm hearing things. It feels so good to think you have done a lot of research only to find out that that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Great. Doc, then he was a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
One of Ghana's finest, And guess what? You were his first daughter. We all know how particular men are with their daughters.
With their daughters, yeah.
And thankfully, he taught you how to pilot.
He did.
Tell me about that experience.
Well, I'll tell you a funny side to it. I remember at the time he was trying to break this myth around the gender stereotypes, and he wanted to teach a girl how to fly. But then the issue was who should volunteer their daughter if something goes wrong. The question is, why didn't you take your own? I'm telling you not because of what I'm thinking. I'm telling you because of what he told me. The reasoning behind why me and not someone else's daughter. Because, recent events will bring to memory the fact that for as long as we've been flying, there's also a huge risk involved in flying. The mere fact that you're off the ground and you're not a bird whose natural environment is the sky, that risk of some incident occurring is there. It doesn't go away. And every time you take off in an aircraft, it has to be with that respect and that humility that you don't have absolute control, but you also have to make sure that technically you're well able to manage. But even then, with the best of efforts, you can't always determine. So so why me? He couldn't dare risk taking somebody else's daughter, so me. And since I was the eldest, me. I mean, I was interested. It was an interesting experience to learn. He was very exacting, very precise. And when he said, do this, he expected you to do it. And it's had to be exactly within the parameters of what he asked for. And I think that's probably one of the things that made him very good at what he did. I'll give you a funny story just to try and illustrate the kind of person that he was. And maybe I shouldn't, given recent events. It might not... people might not find it too tasteful.
Don't worry, we'll talk about recent events. But please, your dad is your dad.
Okay. So he came to pick me up one day because he was a test pilot, actually. He could fly just about anything. And we had these new aircrafts in the Air Force and pair the specifications, pair the manual. This was an aircraft that with one engine failure, you should have been able to continue flying and successfully land. And he wanted to make sure it was true what the aircraft manufacturers were claiming, because he took personally the welfare of the officers and men, not just in the Air Force, but in the armed forces in general. He took it very personal. So he came to pick me up from the house one day to go flying with him. For the thing he was going to do. And when he got there, a friend of my mom's was in the house, and my siblings were there, and my mom's friend said, so why won't you take the others? Why are you only taking her? And I remember this conversation so vividly, because he said, he's going to try something with the aircraft, and in case something happens, at least he shouldn't take all the children. I'm being very euphemistic about how he said it, but in short, he just had this view. He was just practical and pragmatic and very straightforward about how he said things. So I guess for some of us, we kind of got used to that idea of not sugarcoating the truth too much. Maybe. Okay.
Then there was a day he made you fly alone.
Yeah.
You often don't talk about that story. In fact, it was just in one interview, you hinted it kind of. I want to know. I mean, if my dad were an astronaut and he gave me the chance, to one day sit in the dock or whatever cockpit with him, I think I would feel a lot more special. I think it does something. It's a memory you can never erase. How was that experience?
It was a very interesting moment because of what it meant with regards to my self-belief. Because there are times in life when you don't feel like you have what it takes to do something, but someone is able to tell you that, I know you're ready, I know you can do it, so go. And that's what that moment was for me. Because he'd been training me actually for a while, but I didn't think I was still, when you're still learning, at which point do you know you're absolutely ready to do it on your own? And I guess he'd been paying attention. And, in summary, we landed one day and then he got out of the aircraft and said, go. And I hesitated and I looked at him and he said, you're ready, go. And I think it was him saying that, because I know he doesn't miss much when it comes to his, paying attention to detail. And if he felt I was ready, then I thought, okay, well, then I must be ready.
How old were you?
I don't remember. I don't remember whether it was the 13 or 15 at the time.
I understand. Wow. Okay. Then, of course, the unfortunate August 6th incident happens. And because I'd already been preparing for you, I thought of you because you're a pilot. I think maybe officially, are you?
I don't have my license at the moment, so.
Yeah, but you've piloted a number of aircraft, even piloted alone before. What came to your mind that a Z9 helicopter, does not make it? I think that for the average Ghanaian, we are processing it with a lot of assumptions. What could have happened? Did they crash into a mountain? What happened? But for a pilot, I feel that your processing may be a lot more different than the average Ghanaian. How did it come to you, and what did you make of it?
May I be honest with you?
Please do.
All right. So because this is a huge national thing and it's still under investigation, I wouldn't want to prejudice people's minds with what came to my mind. So
that's fine.
Maybe
That's
off
fine.
record we can have a chat, but I don't think it would be fair to speak to it at this point in time, given that the investigation isn't complete.
Great. I mean, just today, well, this will air sometime later. There's a press conference mentioning that the Defense Ministry released a statement that we're going to get assistance from the US Air Force
Correct.
helping us on that. So
Yes.
I appreciate the trust and the sincerity. I'm good with that. There's a shocking statistic I want to draw your attention to. The data shows us that about 80% of those of you here who come to consume the rice we cook here have not subscribed to the channel. I promise you, the team and I are going to work hard to bring you conversations that change the narrative. And that's why we're bringing you diverse conversations from entrepreneurs to footballers to journalists to creatives. We're going to bring you a lot more. But the caveat is that the bigger the subscription, the bigger the guests. There are some guests that we are trying to reach out. The only reason they are not minding us is because we don't have the numbers. And to help us do more, by subscribing to this wherever you consuming it, especially on YouTube. This is Talk, Not the Cook Rice podcast. As you know it, yeah, we cook rice. Don't talk about plans. Charlie cook. Doc, there's one thing you're quite loud about. Almost every platform you're given, you're bound to talk about it. You don't mince words on it. And sometimes you go quite ballistic at it. It's often one of the few subject matters that when you're talking about, I see you like your father. You get quite passionate. And that's got to do with gender inequality. How you feel ladies have been marginalized. One example that comes to mind now is the policy about when we're setting a board, at least one woman. And it sort of looks like the at least has become the norm,
Yeah.
Why are you passionate about women affairs? Recently, you had the 2025 Pan-African Summit. You were quite loud about it. I mean, I respect women. I've got a sister. I'm definitely going to marry somebody's daughter. I've got a mother as well. And so I respect women. But what aren't we seeing that we don't sort of get what you and some others have been, echoing for a very long time?
I think to have a just society, there has to be inclusivity. There has to be fairness. And the most obvious thing is a society is made up of men and women, boys and girls. And if, even with the most obvious glaring thing, you can't see the level of balance you should have, then there's something wrong. I'll give you an example. When it comes to mobilization for elections, for example, you see how the women are brought on board to do a lot of things. There's the mobilization and the campaigning and everything. But when the issue on discussions on strategy, on planning, on who does what, when those discussions are happening, there's an imbalance. I'll give you another example. Okay, so if you were to look at the number of women who get involved at the mobilization level pre-election, and you look at it post, you can see there's a drastic drop in the number of women involved in that process versus the governance side of things. I think about a month and a half ago, I hosted the Paramount Queen mothers from around the country in Parliament who'd requested an audience with me. And they have the same concerns. And actually, one concern that they raised, which was very, very important, which I think we need to take seriously as a country, was the fact that with all the chieftaincy conflicts that we're seeing across the country, the Queen mothers, Paramount Queen mothers and the Queen mothers are not being brought to the table in terms of conflict resolution, in terms of mediation. Everyone else decides on what is going to happen, then they may or may not involve them in some aspect of it towards the end. But the fact of the matter is, historically, at least in the Asanteman, historically, the Queen Mothers have always played a very important role in governance and mediation and conflict resolution to this day. And that's why even to this day, Nana Asante-Hema, rest her soul, still has such an important role. And that's why to this day, she's still a very important figure in the Asanteman. So you flip that and you look at the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which I think lagged behind what we know to be the truth, that when you have women at the table, when it comes to the strategy, when it comes to mediation, when it comes to conflict resolution, when it comes to post-conflict rebuilding and construction, having women early on in that discussion makes a difference in a long-standing peace post the incident or post the event. And also it becomes more, the society is more integrated in terms of how the strategy is rolled out when you're doing the post-conflict or mediation or whatever it is. And yet somehow we're still pushing back on that. As a female, as a woman, as a mother who's a member of parliament, I can even speak to the difficulties at times that I had when my children were much younger. And I've reiterated this on many occasions, the fact that Parliament, which is one of the arms of government, does not have childcare facilities.
Oh.
Yes. We've had a number of members of Parliament, women who had their babies while they were there, were nursing mothers. We do not have rooms where mothers can breastfeed. So even at that level, it's clear that there is not the issue of how do we actually create a balance so that men and women have that level of equality in our society has not even been structured into some of the framework that you see in some of the main governmental institutions. And you have to be intentional about it. It doesn't just happen. How can we be more intentional about the involvement of women, not only when you're looking for numbers and people, but when you are trying to ensure that you create a balance in society? We've had a huge surge in teenage pregnancies post-COVID and with the shift system where a lot of kids were staying home and all of that. And I have to ask myself, if we had more women participating in the policy side of things, implementation, in the governance side of things, would we be seeing a difference in this trend and how these issues are managed? And you have countries where there is greater, sometimes I'm using equity and equality interchangeably. Yeah. When it's not balanced, then it's equity you seek. When you find the balance, then it's about equality. So we are still a long way from equality. So what we're looking for is equity, where you're giving the women a bit of a push, only to allow for the balance. And it's not to remove men. It's just to create a more balanced and harmonious society. In a society where you have the level of imbalance that we're seeing, not just here, but across many countries, not just in Africa, but across the world, you can't have the level of harmony that a society needs to be able to develop sustainably and inclusively. And the most obvious difference that you can address is that between male and female. If you can do that, all the other subtle things of exclusion of other people kind of fits in, because you're starting to recognize the intentionality that has to be applied to a society to make it more balanced. And I would reiterate, it is not about trying to remove men. It's about just creating that space that allows women to actually bring up their best so that a society is being addressed from both sides. If you're looking at things only through one lens, you can't possibly have a society that has justice, that has the balance and harmony that you require, that has the level of advancement you require. The concept of the susu groups amongst women in the informal sector, it's something that was not seen traditionally within the financial sector. This was an informal thing that the women were doing. Some banks, some financial institutions recognized the value in this system and started supporting that whole concept. I'm saying so simply because you realize that the financial system at a point was mostly male dominated. And with no disrespect, but there are certain aspects of life that only a woman can appreciate because only a woman can actually experience, including levels of discrimination, including levels of abuse. And so if you're not bringing those people up to the table where you are thinking, okay, so these are the things you're going through, how can we be intentional in terms of policy directives to make sure that we are addressing this issue that we are not aware of because it doesn't affect us as men, but you as women experience, and you may be able to advise on how we can make society better. So it's really about creating balance. It's not about trying to throw someone under the bus or exclude, but it's about inclusion. And there is more room at the table. If you approach things from a scarcity mindset, you will always think there isn't enough room. But there is. There is. And so we need to stop, allowing the only one woman as the at least one woman and allow more. Because you walk into a room, you pick people, and you say, oh, we're putting together a committee. When men are being picked, nobody ever says, oh, you're picking too many men. But as soon as you pick 2, 3, 4 women, hey, won't you add the men? So we already have a bit of a prejudice on when you are creating a group. There seems to be an expectation of what the ratio should be. We have to change that mindset if we really are seeking to make this country better, if we're seeking to make this continent better in terms of how we create balance and harmony.
Thanks, Doc. And I think I agree. Of course, UN data proves that countries that did well during COVID were countries that were led by women.
Right.
And I think the problem is representation. Mm-hmm. Of course, if we had a lot more women in parliament, then they would probably loud their issue,
We need male advocates as well.
I agree. I definitely agree. So then I'm thinking about it in this way. I think it starts at the party level.
Correct.
If a party is building up to a campaign and even among themselves, they believe that we have too many women, how then does she make it to the top to go and advocate? What has got to change about how we do it?
You've hit the nail on the head. I mean, if we're serious about this, we have this Affirmative Action Act now, which took over a decade to finally make it. And it will not make a difference with representation if people feel that it's only when you get to parliament. How are you going to get to parliament? Every woman who's in parliament today had to fight to get there, and sometimes fight harder than the men. So you have a situation where, yes, the political parties need to put their money where their mouth is. They need to commit. So now the issue is, how do you get the political parties to sign on to, and I'm using the term loosely, but to sign on to the spirit and the essence of what the Affirmative Action Act is all about. So that at the very beginning, whether it's in terms of representation at the branch level, whether it's at the constituency level, whether it's at the regional, national level, or whether it's in selecting of candidates for, parliamentary candidates or vice or presidential or whatever the issue may be, unless the party is intentional in saying that we are going to make sure that we are satisfying a quota of, it should be 50-50, okay? But let's just assume that we're going with a 30%, for example, representation. How can we make sure that the parties are signing on to? Because you have the IPAC where parties have this agreement on how they will sit together and talk about things. Why can this not be one of the things that is high on the agenda and say, listen, as a country, we have signed on to this. We have agreed to affirmative action. So now as parties, we must also show that we have that level of commitment to actually see this through. If we do not make that deliberate action at the party level, we will not see the representation that we're seeking at the legislative level happen. It just will not happen.
Big shout out to Madu for always making sure I look sharp on TV. Listen, fashion is not just about clothes, it's about presence. And with Madu, you don't just wear any outfit, you show up with confidence. Whether it's a clean kaftan for that classic vibe, for that wedding, or a fresh shirt for everyday style, or shorts and pants that give you comfort with a touch of elegance. Madu, of course, makes you stand out in the crowd. They're right here at Sprinters at Dogono, and they're just a call away. 0244 091 525. You can also check them out on Instagram, Facebook at MaduGH. And so if you want want to switch your wardrobe or step out differently with a statement, then you know who to call. Madu. Let's get back into our conversation. I agree. I had the CEO of Caveman Watches as a watch brand in Ghana, and Anthony, he was here. And he mentioned that for him, he does about 70% female stuff and 30. And a lot of people found it quite absurd. But he noticed that the ladies apparently work a lot more diligently than the men. And they're a lot more passionate. I have, by God's grace, led a number of stuff. And I anytime I'm choosing a personal assistant at my young age, small boy, I often go for a lady. I've worked with male PAs. Oh, Jesus. You'd have to re-echo. But you cast the vision to a lady. She gets it and runs with it. And so I think it makes so much sense to have women at the table, especially when, even with our traditional setting, our traditional mothers, those who didn't go to school, they make the money. My mom used to sell at Agbogboshi. Yeah. Tomatoes, comes home very dirty with a I don't know what they call it, working gear, you know. And when she pours out her earnings from the day, you look at it and it's like, just from today, you know, it tells you that these people are a lot more diligent. Yeah. They know what they are doing. Yeah. It's just a matter of reeling them in and taking their opinion. I agree on that. And since we're talking about women, maybe I want us to switch a bit into talking about the youth now. Doc, one of the news that's now I find quite unbearable to bring to our audience anytime I'm on the AM show is the surge in indiscipline in senior high schools. Recently, in your own constituency, the alma mater of former President Akufo-Addo, we had a student, you know, taking the life of another student. We've had some SHL schools being shut down because of conflict. I mean, there's a video of an Accra Academy boy whipping his colleague with a cutlass, a machete, you know. And even for us as young people, we wonder, where did this gross insolence come from and indiscipline come from? What do you think is the case? I'm asking because some make the point that to go to senior high school, it means that you have to pass your BEC, meaning that it was the, in quotes, serious students who made it. And of course, every student, serious student has got some discipline. And so some make the argument that because we opened the floodgates for everybody to now access senior high school, now you have a few of the miscreants who ordinarily, we are not denying anybody access to education, it's their human right. Ordinarily wouldn't have made it to senior high school, now have made it through the system because we are opening a free system. And that has fanned into flame what we're saying today. What do you make of it?
I think this is a multi-pronged problem, if I can call it that. Because you have on the one hand, and I'm probably going to get some backlash for this one, but on the one hand, you have a certain level of indiscipline in the political arena, which creates this impression in people's minds that you can misbehave and it's okay. And you see a lot of that happening, and it still happens, whether it's, you know, some people in a particular party in a particular area have decided they're not happy with something, they go and vandalize things. Or, you know, you have people who just have decided that their method of having a go at someone is just raining abuse on the person, or other people just assaulting others. And we're almost at the point where we are normalizing that kind of behavior. Now, children and young people learn from their environment. And it's not like before where you had, you know, the TV and radio and nothing else. You have the internet, you have access to the internet on phones. So literally you have direct access to what's happening in real time almost everywhere. And if what you're seeing around you is grown-ups acting in a certain way and getting away with it, what it tells you is that that is normal, but it isn't. And I think that, and this is something that I always try to speak to people about when I'm campaigning and when I'm on my political platforms, that we should just remember that if we have to be decent to one another. You can disagree with people without descending into abuse and lies and just being completely disruptive. We can disagree without, assaulting other people because they don't share the same opinions or values as we do. And if there's one thing that cuts across the entire society, is politics. You can't get away from it. It's everywhere. And I'm referring specifically to the partisan politics. So when you have young people who are still in school seeing grown-ups who are supposed to be the role models engaging in that kind of behavior, you're basically saying that's what they should look up to and that's what they should emulate. Number one. Number two, you're right. I remember when I was in JSS, you had to do your exams. We had continuous assessment. So it was a combination of your exams plus your assessments that you did with assignments and practicals throughout the term, throughout the year, which all added up to your grades at the end of it all. And yeah, like you, I'm not against access to education, but it has to be properly done. Otherwise, you're not even doing the children a favor. You are putting them in huge numbers in an institution that physically cannot contain them. The teacher to student ratio is not optimal. The classes aren't big enough. And it becomes difficult to even teach, not to mention discipline a group of students when there are too many of them. Then you have a situation where I suppose restrictions have been put in place with regards to how the kind of punishments that the teachers or head teachers are able to give to the students, which also means that some of the teachers are actually afraid to punish some of the children. Now, when you have all of these factors put together and then you throw in some of the kids who are engaged in gambling, some of the kids who are engaged in drug abuse, then you really have set the scene for problems. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of. The issue of drugs, it's something I have been talking about for a really long time. And this year, because of the recent issue with some of these unusual drugs that have made their way into the system, attention has been brought to it a lot more because it's become, I think, a bit more pervasive. But the reality is that we've had a drug issue in Ghana for a long time. And we keep brushing it under the carpet because I don't know why, actually. I'm not too sure why. Mental health is something that's not being given the level of attention that it should be given. And I think that if we are not careful and we put so much emphasis on, infectious diseases and some of the other diseases without paying attention to the aspect of mental health and the impact of drugs on our society, we are looking away from something that is really, it's quite a bit of a monster that's taking over. A lot of young people are on drugs. But because we are not paying attention to that, we're not recognizing it as one of the factors that's contributing to some of the violence we're seeing in our schools. So this is a problem that has lots of sides to it that has to be addressed in a multifaceted approach. You can't just use the one approach of saying, well, we're going to start locking the gates to the school. If you're locking the gates to the school, you're not providing security for the children, for the teachers. You're not making sure that the student-to-teacher ratio is optimal so that the teachers are able to manage the students. You're not solving the problem. We have to really look at it as the problem that it is now. It's a wicked problem, as we say, which means now it has got so many sides to it, direct, indirect, remote, and immediate causes related to it. We have to be able to have that honest conversation. And we need to get the teachers and the non-teaching staff on board and ask them what exactly their problems are and how can we help them. I feel very passionate about this because I remember going to primary school. I went to Northridge Lyceum because it was in the neighborhood anyway. And then I went to Achimota JSS. I went to Wesley Girls High School. And all of these schools, when I was there, I remember the level of discipline, at the time. And you knew you couldn't cross a certain line with the teachers. And I'm not sure that kind of discipline still exists in our school. So what can we do to restore that? How do we get the parents more involved to understand that the raising of a child is not just for the schools? How can we get more parents to attend the PTA meetings? Because one of the issues raised is a lot of parents don't even bother to show up for PTA meetings. What sanctions do you put in place when a child has done it once, twice, 3 times, assaulting somebody else, and so on and so forth? I like to be practical about issues. And if there's a problem, we sit, we try and resolve it, and we get everybody else involved in solving the problem, because you can't solve a problem on a one-sided, approach. So, I know I haven't really answered your question, but this is what goes through my mind when I think about this issue about violence in our schools.
I get it. Are these sentiments you've registered with, especially when you use it on the security committee as well? It might be quite indirect, but I feel, is it something that the education ministry is actively pursuing?
What I do know is that recently the minister did mention that they were going to provide security in the schools. But what I've done in my interaction with some of the schools is for them to provide me with a problem list and what they think the solutions should be. Because what I then want to do is to be able to share that with the minister and say, look, I've engaged some of them, in my constituency. These are the challenges they're facing, and these are some of the proposals they've made. Because I like when people can propose solutions to problems that they're bringing, and just see how that can add to the bigger conversation on how we resolve this issue. Because with what we're talking about, where the floodgates, so to speak, were open, you're finding that there are people in school who are way above that age of what you would expect. Yeah. So even managing such people becomes a little bit more difficult than if you were managing a 13, 14, 15-year-old. You have an 18-year-old who's in Form 1, and the person may be a parent already, and you're trying to tell them what to do, and they're looking at you and thinking, But how do we make sure that when people enter a school, they understand that the school, my former headmistress, Wesley Girls, Mrs. Achampo used to say, when you come into Wesley Girls must go through you. So you have to let the philosophy and the principles of the institution that you enter, you must imbibe those. You mustn't just pass through and nobody should know that you actually went to that institution. Yeah. So
makes sense. No wonder Wesley Girls ladies are the standouts. Yeah. We'll get back into the conversation pretty shortly, but let's talk about perfumes. Nothing speaks louder than how you smell, the scent you're wearing. And when you step in a room, you must be different from the crowd. And that's what Perfume Essential does for you. They've got everything you need, from undiluted perfume oils that last all day to designer perfumes to body splashes. And they even have diffusers to keep your space smelling very fresh. But guess what? This is luxury at a super affordable amount. And here's where to find them: on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as well, at The Perfume Essential. The name is The Perfume Essential. Or just hit them up on 0541 470 039. Wholesale and retail, they've got you. Let's go back into our conversation. Doug, there's a post you made exactly 950 days ago.
Oh, God.
19th July.
I wonder which one that was.
2023. When I found this quote, this post, I read it. I read through like 3 times, just trying to go through your mind. What could have, inspired this? And I read to you: as I dream of the Ghana my heart longs for, I sometimes feel disillusioned and saddened by the realization that my short lifetime, I have witnessed us go from a can-do spirit to one of passing the buck with a concomitant lack of accountability. How have we allowed our country to be hijacked in the most insidious way possible? That now, when you speak with outrage at the current situation, you are accused of creating instability. Shall we continue to observe with reticence the erosion of everything that once made us the envy of so many countries? Are we content to allow a misconstrued concept of democracy to destroy us from within in the name of maintaining the status quo? I recently read some words that were so deep, and indeed my thoughts go back to them as I reflect. The title, in quotes, "Do not open the door for the lesser evil." In the name of multi-party politics, we have sought to make room for the lesser evil at every turn, to compromise on right and wrong with each step, and with each compromise and with each crack in the wall of integrity. We have let in demons that we perhaps did not anticipate and therefore seem to lack the skills or the conviction to exercise. So at what point do we draw the line? It continues. Like termites, the lesser evil eats at the core of the giant tree trunk while still giving a semblance, albeit superficially. And that's all as well. And here is the irony. We know the signs of termite infestation when we see them. And yet one day, the tree cracks and collapses as passerbys look on in shock, asking another, how could this possibly have happened? As with termites, once you start seeing traces on the surface of the tree, it means there's already some damage deeper than meets the eye. And so is corruption and greed and the shifting of our moral compass. It eats away steadily till there is no anchor to hold the tree. And all it takes then is a little wind or a bit of rain to bring it crashing down. So whither are we bound as a nation? Shall we continue sliding down the slope into the abyss by virtue of our reticence or inaction, or dare to stand up and be counted as we demand a paradigm shift within our society, starting with ourselves, a change that renders sacred the principles of good governance and celebrates integrity, transparency, and accountability? A movement that makes a consistent effort towards restoring the solid principles that will protect an enduring legacy of our beloved Ghana. Let us restore this nation together. And of course, your favorite slogan, together we build.
That was a long one, hey?
Very long one.
Yeah.
What informed this?
It's just, it actually says exactly what I was feeling and what I was seeing. I think for me, just there seems to be, it appears that when we talk about democracy, we don't seem to appreciate the fact that there are responsibilities that come with the rights that we have as citizens. And it also appears as though we're constantly taking less responsibility as citizens for what we should be doing. And someone else is going to clean it. Someone else is going to fix it. Someone else is going to service it. So even when you're given something that you're supposed to look after, because it belongs to the government and it's not yours, you don't use it properly, as though you don't protect it. You don't look after it properly because it's for the government. Who is the government? You know, we've steadily moved away from this sense of being a part of the thing to being outsiders of governance. And there are the governance structures, and then there's the rest of us. And when you keep having that, and not entirely the fault of followership per se, but when you don't have leadership that is willing to bring the people along as well and expect more of people, you create a feeling of, well, you know, what difference does it make anyway? And it's a whole range of things that led me to, I mean, that was me really pouring my heart out about what I see happening in Ghana in terms of the fact that you have, for example, a lot of young people feel like they don't matter, they're not heard. In designing policies, nobody's asking them, what are you actually interested in? You know, you have sometimes people designing a thing and saying, this is what we're giving to the youth, but maybe that's not what they want, you know? And so sometimes you have the onboarding for certain programs for young people is not as high as it should be because it's not catering to what they actually feel they need. How do we look at the issues of doing the right thing, not just because it's going to bring votes? You know, and being able to speak the truth without being afraid of not being voted for. It seems as though we're constantly chasing elections, and the populism thing is just becoming so central to what is always being done that we are not paying enough attention to what is the right thing to do, not just for today, but for tomorrow, for generations yet unborn. What kind of a legacy can we leave behind? A legacy that will stand the test of time, that will not be washed away at the end of every election and you're back to square one. You know, understanding that being disciplined is not a bad thing. Having a good work ethic is not a bad thing. And those are the things that help to build a nation. You know, people look in envy at Rwanda. Do you know what it's like to be there? You can't litter the way you do over here. There is zero tolerance for selling in the wrong space. But we look at that and we We admire it, but we are not ready to take on board the level of discipline and commitment that it takes to do that. People brag about Malaysia and Singapore. What it took to get them where they are we prepared to do that? I think Singapore still has corporal punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all the human rights lawyers are in Ghana, though. You're not allowed to chew gum in Singapore.
Yeah.
Simple. Whether you're a visitor or whether you're from Singapore, whether you're a VIP, whether you're not, no exceptions made. You're not allowed to chew gum. It's as simple as that. You cannot take plastics into Rwanda. Simple as that. There are certain tough decisions you have to take in order to have governance be good. Because you can have bad governance. So you must distinguish, is it good or bad governance? And what is good governance? What does it look like? Good governance is not just about going for elections and having a certain level of transparency and, fairness and making sure that the result you got overall was clean and it wasn't because someone cheated their way in. And then what? What are the things that you're doing for the people? That is, you're delivering on time. You're making sure that the dignity of the citizen is respected. You're making sure that, working conditions are good enough. You're looking at the roads and making sure that the number of people who are dying in road traffic accidents, it's no more than the number of people who are dying of disease in hospital, because then you have a problem. How long is it taking you to go from one town to the next? What is the impact of that on your GDP? Your post-harvest losses? In any sector, in any area that you look at, if you are not making sure that the pillars of good governance are being adhered to beyond elections, you won't succeed. You're just going to be going around in circles. And that is, for me, one of the frustrations that I find, that people would rather have the favor of people by telling them a story that sounds sweet for an election, rather than say, look, this is the reality of where we are. This is how we have to do it. Making sure that when people are given those opportunities to serve in leadership, there's a certain level of integrity that is expected, and those who don't live up to it must not be allowed to be there. You can't expect that the citizens should do the right thing. And yet those who are given higher levels of responsibility and greater access to the nation's wealth are held to a different standard. I just saw on recently, I think it was even on your Joy news, where there's a trader who damaged some part of the, I think, the overpass.
Yeah.
Put away for 2 years in jail. Is it too harsh? I'm not going to comment on that. But are we going to be able to do that to a public servant, a politician, who does the equivalent of damaging that, where a road should have been built and it wasn't done? It's full of potholes. They got the money. We can't account for how the money translated into a road being built. But they are walking free because maybe they supported someone's campaign or what, or a school that was supposed to have been built. Full amount released. Where's the school? What is the structural integrity to the building? Or a building in a polyclinic. I invite you to go and see the recent building that was handed over by the Coastal Development Agency in Adabraka Polyclinic. Have a look at it and tell me whether that is a building that should have been handed over to the clinic without even the involvement of the medical staff who could at least have advised whether it was fit for purpose. But money was spent on that building. Even the paint job, I think that some kid in class 1 would have done a better paint job than what I saw there.
Oh.
So when we're bringing the bar so low because we feel that it's okay to do that and get away with it because of what? Is it the politics? But I don't understand that. We have to, at some point, draw the line and do what is right for the people of Ghana. We have to.
Oh. Seems to me, Doc, I mean, when I look at Ghana's current, I don't know, the state of Ghana, I think everybody sort of agrees that we need a whip cracker. I mean, it's a leadership problem. Everything rises and falls, on leadership. And so, this was a point I already had in mind. Paul Adomotri was here, and he made the same point that the NDC necessarily didn't win power because we love them. We miss them. We can't wait to see them again.
You do.
Just hold on a bit for me, dog.
Carry on.
But part of it has to do with the fact that the people are seeing the things that do not work. And people are looking for change, So everybody's sort of looking for a whip cracker. And when I look at things like some of the issues we're currently dealing with, one of them, Galam said, oftentimes, I could be wrong, but one of the bold assertions I have is that if former President Rawlings were here, I feel would not have a Galamsey problem. Because, we all appreciate the discipline. He's a whip cracker. He's not going to, I don't know the word to use. He's not going to pat on anybody on the back, defend anybody because he supported his campaign or anything. He'll call you out, And so I sort of agree with what you say. We need a total mindset evolution. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Does it get better?
It has to. It has to. We can't sit down and let it just keep spiraling out of control, because then we have failed. Because if we can see that it can be better and we can see there are ways to make it better, then we have a duty to do what we can to make that change.
Yes, Doc. I agree with you. Recently, the firstborn of President Obama, Malia Ann Obama, dropped her first name. And it made the news and she dropped it because she felt people think everything she's achieved is being tied to her father. And I think it's one thing that the children of successful people experience quite a lot. You've worked so hard, but oftentimes people would assume, okay, how do I, not for her father, she wouldn't be here. Doc, you're one of the people whose names have been dragged in the mud multiple times. People have said very unpleasant stuff about you. Even your party, your executive people have had to, one of your campaigns, your in-house people, turning their backs on you. And sometimes I feel that, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel that maybe the question is, why do you allow it?
Why do I allow what? People to abuse me?
Sometimes, they almost sort of get away with it. Especially with this. Recently, somebody made a very horrific statement in Parliament. Honorable, like how, oh man, and I feel that, I don't know what goes in the back end, but I just feel that, it's okay, Jamaica, Benny, I don't know. I feel that there's a lot people put you through. And because of your father and the party, you sometimes have to just forgive and let go.
I don't think this is about Jamaica. I think you pick and choose your battles. I will not publicly or privately turn my back on my parents because I know what they did. I'm also aware of the sacrifices they made with regards to parenthood. And sometimes the loudest voice is not the most honest voice. And I'm not under any illusion that my father was loved by everyone. There has been a lot of misinformation. And as a leader, he decided that he would let the buck stop with him. So a lot of things that many people had accused him of actually had nothing to do with him, but he took ownership of everything because that's what you do as a leader. There are people who know the actual truth who are still alive today, but for reasons best known to them, they've kept quiet about what they knew to be the truth of a lot of things that happened. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think that whether it was the period of 79 or 81, anyone can say that it was something that happened without incident. No. And on multiple occasions, I believe my father on various platforms had apologized for the excesses of the revolution, which on behalf of even people who did things he was not aware of. And I think that in a society, when you have people who feel that they must have a swipe at someone, at the child of someone because of their disdain for the parent, I'm not quite sure if it shows a certain level of maturity, to be very honest with you. I'm very conscious of that. And I remember, I think I was about 11 or so. There was an incident that occurred, which I won't go into because of the persons involved in it. But I remember my father actually saying to me that don't make enemies of your parents' enemies, which I thought was very profound. And it stayed with me because and it's something that I've lived by. And I'm very, very careful not to treat people badly because of who they may be associated with. That's my personal philosophy. You can't change how people will react to you because they're upset about something, because they're hurt, because they are, angry or resentful, or maybe just ignorant of something. I have no respect for people who are cowards. If you have something to say, own up and say it's you, and let's know that you have said it and you're owning what you've said. I don't appreciate people who feel that they should be callous because they can. I think that with greater responsibility, with positions of leadership, should come greater humility, greater decorum, greater respect for one another, because those are the ways in which you set an example for what leadership should look like. Do I allow it? I'm not quite sure how to use that term, allow, but there are times when you have to, you allow things to, I suppose you allow time. It's not about the fact that you are forgetting what has happened per se. But there are times when time actually deals with certain things. I'm very, very aware of the level of abuse that people throw around. And it's something that has guided how I have gone about my service in terms of public service, in terms of my campaigning. And I do not take kindly to people on my platform, abusing or assaulting other people. It's not something that I like to endorse for exactly the reason, because I understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of something that you may have not had nothing to do with. And I remember even in primary school, sometimes when I was in primary school, I would hear some of the kids in my class saying things, and it was for my benefit, of course. So I think human nature is what it is, and it doesn't matter where you are or who you are, but you can choose how you will be. You can choose to rise above it and be who you will be, rather than be as a result of a reaction to how people are behaving. Because I like to say, each of us has a destiny, and your destiny is kind of the path on which you're on, like, an electron in its path or something. And when you start looking too much at what somebody else in their path is doing, you may lose your path. And then you don't fulfill the purpose for which God created you. So I think, of course, when people say things, of course, it's unpleasant. But if you dwell on them, you're losing sight on where you're supposed to be heading.
But I think about how you also feel in such instances, You're a human being.
Yes.
How does it, how do you deal with it? How do you bounce back or even swim through that wave of emotions and all of that?
I think to a large extent, I do pray a lot. I do pray a lot. And there's a thing you do in terms of you just surrender certain things. And, you just pray for the grace to move on and just to keep focused on what it is that your purpose is. Because when it comes to how, this is my belief, when it comes to how God determines things for you, if God says that this is the role that you're supposed to play, and that is what it is, only you can change that. So if you allow other people distracting you to make you decide you won't do it again, then you've lost your path. And sometimes some people realize that they can see the level of conviction you have, and they know that perhaps if they try and attack you and make you feel bad and try to make you feel like it's too much stress, or, you don't feel comfortable in that space, if they can do that enough, maybe they can get you to move away from that thing that you do believe in. So you have to also try not to be reactionary so much that you lose your pathway. And then it means that those people who aren't even doing what they should do but have decided to have a go at you, then they've won, right?
Oh, I think that's profound. You've given me an answer to a problem. Thank you.
Oh.
Doc, we'll get back into the conversation pretty shortly, but let's talk about sneakers. I love sneakers. I wear them almost every day, even to church. You know your drip is never complete if your kicks don't speak. And that's where dress-up stores come in, the home of fresh quality sneakers that let you step boldly wherever you go. And guess what? They are fully online and they deliver nationwide. So no matter where you are, the heat will reach your doorstep. Just hit them up on WhatsApp 050-538-5697 or call 0249-968-622. And don't forget to follow them on the gram at Dress Up Sneakers on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. I love their sneakers. I wear them every day. Dress Up Stores. Step boldly. Guess what? I listen to a lot of leadership stuff, and one of the questions that sort of gets the same answer, which is, what's the best decision anybody can make in life? The first answer almost every leadership pundit I've listened to goes is who you marry. 27. And
don't ask me, I'm not married.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. And of course, I'm sure I'll definitely marry. I'll marry. I think I should marry. Yeah. But I'm also in the same season where I'm pursuing success. Mm-hmm. That, I feel that something should be achieved. I'm cooking rice. Until my rice is ready, I don't look at ladies, You
can cook stew while you're cooking rice, at the same time.
But the rice is more important than the,
No, you can't eat rice on its own.
Okay, maybe the rice should be ready. I mean, you have a point.
So if it takes you 20 minutes to cook rice, and it takes you 15 minutes to cook the stew, and you decide you spend your 20 minutes only cooking the rice, then afterwards go and cook the stew, won't your rice be a bit cold by the time your stew is ready?
You have a point.
Yeah, I don't think that you necessarily have to pick one or the other. I think it's really about finding the balance.
Okay, Doc.
So don't lock yourself in like that. I think just be open-minded and just pray for discernment to pick the right person.
Yes, Doc. I mean, so I even brought in the question to find out how do I prepare towards marriage?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, I don't.
I'm kidding.
Doc, I mean, because
I think that I get the impression that sometimes when people are thinking about marriage, it's the preparation towards it more than the actual journey of being married that people seem to focus on. So there's what do they call the pre-pictures?
Save the date.
Yes, that's the one. Yes. So you have all this investment into the external appearance of things for what the people will say and pleasing the family and society and everything. Forgetting or maybe not recognizing the fact that, even when you grew up in the same house with siblings who are both from the same parents, you can still have issues in terms of how you manage your communication. Yeah. You do things differently. How do you manage that when you've decided that you're going to share a roof with a person, you're going to start a family with a person? And it seems people automatically think that when you get married, everything is automatically okay. It's a lovely fairy tale, but I don't think it always happens like that. It's good to put your best foot forward, but it's also good for you to be a bit honest about who you are, so that the person isn't surprised when in 3 months they are wondering, where did this character traits come from? And that's not to say don't improve upon yourself, but like any other, I think marriage is given the label as it is, as a sacred institution that is meant to be the basis on which a family is started, okay? But if you think about it as any kind of relationship, a business partnership, a friendship, a contract, all together, you can't just leave it and expect that it will fix itself. It's constant work, because there may be a way you say things that the person doesn't understand. And when you say it, the person doesn't hear what you're saying or what you think you're saying. So you must even learn how to speak each other's language. I don't mean your dialect. Yeah. I'm speaking in terms of how can I say something to you for you to understand it's exactly as I am saying it, and vice versa. Okay? Or if it comes to the issue of how does the money issue in the house, who provides the money for what, who does which chores, and so on and so forth. I mean, there has to be some kind of a platform of common values to start with, so that at least there's something to go back to, especially when the going gets tough. But even with the best of intentions, a marriage can just not work. It's a risk. It's a risk. You hope for the best, but you just never know.
Yes, Doc. I feel that I have a lot more questions for you, but pressed for time. And so I want us to do some light note questions. Okay. And I want you, very relaxed, very fast answers. You're very intelligent, daughter of the fast.
I feel like you're setting me up.
I'm not setting you up. You got it. So it's called a this or that. So I mentioned 2 options. You choose one quickly.
Oh no, my kids do this thing as well.
Yeah.
Would you rather? I would rather not.
Oh, you should. I mean, but for young people, so people see the light of bits about you. Between medicine or politics, what's you going for?
Oh, both.
Both? Well, you just have 2 both in this session, so you can't repeat.
No, you tell me. Okay, so that one is not bad. Right?
Okay. Medicine or politics?
No, you asked me already before you told me.
That's why I'll spare you on that. Morning routine or late night reading?
Late night.
Late night reading? Wow. But you work out?
Oh.
Okay, I'll get back to that. Parliament debate or community outreach?
I have a soft spot for community outreach.
Yeah, I notice.
Yeah.
You go out quite a lot. Leadership by example, leadership by policy.
Oh, by example, because whatever the case may be, policy will come through if you're doing it by example.
Great. Health advocacy, environmental activism.
To be honest, I would say environmental, because everything is connected to our environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very smart. Village life or city vibes?
Please give me village life.
Really?
You'll live long. Do you know, as we're coming around the psychiatric hospital, the bells from the cathedral were ringing. I can't remember the last time I actually heard it, because there's so much noise pollution. So give me village life, please.
Wow. Okay.
So you see, we have to improve life in the village so that, the standard of living there is good without the...
Makes sense. Great. Kaftan check or jeans and sneakers?
Oh, give me jeans and sneakers.
You do that a lot. But of course, when you do, African print, you look amazing in them.
Thank you.
Family time or political strategy meetings?
Oh, it depends on the time of day.
Okay. You have a point. Fufu and light soup or banku and okra?
Oh, both.
Really?
Yes.
Give up one.
No, I can't.
Really? Which has the upper hand over the other?
Why would you say this?
Okay, I'll spare you on that. Coconut water or sobolo?
Oh. Do I have one more both option?
Perhaps, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I love both. Okay. But I guess if I really, really, really had to pick, maybe I'll pick sobolo. But
really? Oh, okay. Well, especially when it's minty?
Yes.
Okay. Great. That's to say you like pepper.
Not really.
Not really. Because I don't do pepper too. Road trip with friends or quiet weekend at home?
Quiet weekend at home, please.
Afrobeat or high life classics?
Oh, no. I guess at the moment I'm in the Afrobeats vibe, so I'll take Afrobeats for now.
Okay. Who's your favorite though?
I knew that was coming. Yeah. But if I say one and I don't say the other, some of them are my friends, so I'm afraid to mention a name right now.
No worries. Doc, that's all for my light note question. But there's a video I want you to watch, and that's how we wrap up. And I wonder why you do these things. I mean, when I see them, it makes me laugh, it makes me excited. And I want you to see this video.
Hey, Raddy. Can't you see I'm singing from the heart?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is 2016.
Yep.
gosh, I was very slim then.
You still are, though.
Oh my gosh.
The energy with this part, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Then there's this video that's going to play.
After this? Oh, you can let it play?
You can find it a bit.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah. We were hosting the elderly folk from the constituency, and this group, they were doing the Akpan logo, and I was drawing them, but sometimes being slim is not good for this dance, you know?
Doc, I just want to say thank you for being an amazing person. I showed you this video particularly because I noticed you're one of the few politicians who doesn't love salutes. You know, a lot of politicians want feigned respect, you know, and show up, honorable, you know, but you get into the gutters, you do the unusual. Reminds us a lot about your dad. And if we never get to meet again, I just wanted to know that for me personally, we'll meet. Okay. I just want to say thank you for making the time to be here and for being a beacon of hope and an icon to a lot of young ladies out there, including me. I'm not a lady, but I love you so much. I've got a good friend who really loves you. And maybe if we ever meet again, I'll probably introduce her to you.
I don't like how you keep saying if. It doesn't sound optimistic.
When we do, I'll let you know. Doc, thank you for coming on our podcast. What's the name of our podcast? Please do not watch.
I will not watch.
Tell me your fed.
Isn't it something doesn't cook rice?
Doc, something. I feel sad. I feel how... Talk no the cooker. Please give me a fist bump. Thank you so much. Doc, we're done.
Thank you.
Talk no dey cook rice.